Hey y'all, today we're going to be talking about credit scores, more specifically, how to increase your credit score. If you're new to my channel, my name is Jessie Fearon and I share my family's real life on a budget. And my family is 100% debt free. We paid off our mortgage in January of 2019. Now, that means that because we are debt free, we also haven't had a credit card in nearly 7 years. So we paid off and canceled all of our credit cards in the year 2013. And so we've gone almost 7 years without having a credit card. That also means that we haven't had any open lines of credit. And since we had no current open lines of credit and our mortgage was paid for, come August of 2019, our credit scores started to drop. In fact, my credit score got to the lowest it ever has been, that it's ever been. And here's the thing, guys. At 21 years old, I almost went bankrupt because I had over $11,000 of credit card debt, but yet I still had a super high credit score. That tells you exactly what your credit score is all about. Your credit score is just a metric that is used by lenders to see what your credit worthiness is, meaning can you take on debt and can you pay back debt? If you can keep current on paying on your debts and you have what they classify a healthy amount of debt, then they're really excited to lend you money, typically going to make your credit score higher. The funny thing is that the moment you pay off all your debt and you have no open lines of credit, your credit score starts to fall, as did mine. And so what ended up happening is that shortly after I got the notification from Credit Karma is a free credit monitoring service that we use. I will include a link in the description of this video to them. They are a free service and I highly recommend it, not just to keep not just so you know what your credit score is, but also too, so that way you can be alerted if there's something like if a new account gets opened using your information, but it's an account you didn't open. That's very helpful information to know, right? So I'll include a link in the description of this video to Credit Karma so you can check them out and so you can start monitoring your credit for free. You don't have to pay for it, guys. Monitor it for free. And so I had received a notification that my credit score dropped, and like I said, it got to the lowest it's ever been in my entire life, or at least adult life. And right after getting that notification, about a day or two later, I got an email from a reader wanting my help. Her and her husband, they were on baby steps 3 and 3B. If you follow Dave Ramsey or read his book, The Total Money Makeover, you know that baby step 3 is to fully fund your emergency fund. And baby step 3B is to save 20% to put down on a home or to take on a mortgage. And so the issue that this reader was having is that her husband was being relocated for his job. And they were really excited about the relocation because it was going to put them closer to family. And it was just overall the right move for their family to make. The problem they were having is that they didn't quite have the 20% yet saved to be able to put down on a home. So they needed to find a place to rent for at least a year or two while they finished saving up the money. Problem though is that because they had completed baby step 2, which is paying off all of their debts, they had paid off all their debts and closed all their accounts. And so their credit scores had dropped significantly. And now a lot of landlords weren't willing to work with them. And so she was wanting my help on what they could do to quickly increase their credit score without going back into debt. And so I decided, hey, this is the perfect opportunity to go on a little experimentation. Now that I'm 100% debt free, I know what it's like to be in debt and out of debt and all of that. And so I was like, well, could I handle a credit card again? Could I? Let's find out. All right, so for this experiment, I'm going to show you what my actual credit score was in August of 2019 so you can see where I'm starting with. Now, I will go ahead and tell you that with Credit Karma, they only pull from TransUnion and Equifax. Those are the two biggest bureaus out of all three of them. So you're going to just see TransUnion and Equifax's credit scores on this video just because I'm using what I had from Credit Karma to go with. Okay, guys, so this is my actual credit score, as you see, on August 3rd of 2019. So my credit score at this point had already started falling. My credit score before all this happened was in the high 700s. So as you can see, my credit score fell dramatically despite the fact that we have zero debts and we outright own our home. So we don't have a mortgage, we don't have car loans, we don't have boat loans, we don't have anything like that. But my credit score fell dramatically. And so I felt like this was a great time to do this experiment to see, okay, how fast and how quickly can I raise my credit score? So I started kind of embarking on some things, but before, so I kind of started like researching some things and trying to figure some things out. But before I go into a lot of details on what I did, I have to make sure that you know that one, I had no bad debts on, like I had nothing in collections. So if you have stuff in collections, you don't need to listen to any of this advice I'm about to give because you need to first pay off all of the stuff that's in collections first, because your credit score is not going to go up significantly if you have a bunch of debt sitting in collections. Like, you need to get those bad debts taken care of before you can move on to any of these other steps in repairing your credit. And so that would be the first thing that you would need to do. Also, another thing to mention once again is that I had no debts. None, zero, nothing. I had no open lines of credit, no nothing, like absolutely nothing. It was like I was 18 with nothing to my name, right? Like, that's kind of how it was when those credit scores were there. And I need to say that because I need you to understand that if you were deep in debt already, like you're really deep in debt, again, whether they're good debts or bad debts, even if they're not debts and collections, but you have a ton of debt already, do not do what I'm about to tell you to do. So even if you don't have debts and collections, but you have a ton of debt, what you need to do is pay off your debt. That's what you need to do. Pay off your debt and get that debt to income ratio to a much more happy medium. And that is going to raise your score. Having a whole lot of debt and having a whole bunch of open lines of credit, like if you have like 11 credit cards, even if there's no balances on those credit cards, but if you have like 11 credit cards, that's going to significantly impact your score. Credit cards are seen as a riskier thing because it's an unsecured line of credit, meaning like, okay, so if you have a mortgage, then if you don't pay your mortgage, the bank is going to come take your home, right? That's called a secured line of credit because there's a physical thing that the lender can take away from you if you don't pay the bill. Same with a car, same with a boat, same with a camper. Like, you don't pay the bill, they come and they repossess the property. That's what they do. But with a credit card, they can't repossess any property, which is why it's called an unsecured line of credit, and it's classified as being risky. So if you have a ton of credit cards open, that can ding your score as well. So you might want to consider closing a few of those cards that you don't use anymore. Okay, so in order for me to start this whole process of bringing my credit score up, I froze my credit back when the whole Equifax data breach happened back in 2017 because my information was stolen as a part of that breach. And so I completely froze my credit. I also froze my kids' credit, and I've had my identity stolen before. So I highly recommend you freeze your credit. Trust me, it's much better. But I will say the problem is that Equifax and Experian, which I really hope somebody from one of those bureaus is watching this video, because Equifax and Experian are pains in the butt to unfreeze or thaw your credit. Like, it is so difficult, guys. Like, I don't know why. So for me, but TransUnion is a breeze. Like, it is so simple. It's so easy. It's like, oh my God, a genius thought of this, right? Sorry, Equifax, sorry, Experian, I'm picking on you, but for real, TransUnion has got it going on. So for me, I didn't want to have to go through the hassle of trying to thaw off my credit, which means a thaw just means that it's a temporary lift on your credit freeze. So then that way creditors can access your information. I have to do this anytime we change utility companies. I have to put a thaw on my credit, so that way they can run my credit and we can switch to a different utility company. It's definitely not the most convenient thing, but it's also a great peace of mind knowing that my information isn't just being sold off and vulnerable to anybody who just wants to use it. So I did a thaw on my credit freeze with TransUnion. And so I started researching which credit cards, one, that I could get an immediate like yes or no approval response from. Two, was going to report quickly. So they weren't going to report like in a matter of like 2 to 3 months. I wanted them to report within a 30-day time period, or hopefully within a matter of days. And what credit card company would run through TransUnion, or at least run through TransUnion. They might run through all 3 bureaus, but I wanted to make sure TransUnion was included in the bureaus that they were going to run through. And so I found Amazon. So I had an Amazon purchase that I was planning to make anyhow. And so I was like, all right, we'll apply for Amazon, see if I get approved. I got approved, obviously, because I have a credit card with them. And so I used the card. And so I used the card for a $30 purchase. And here's what happened. But here's what happened as soon as I opened up that credit card with Amazon. Like, we're talking within a 24-hour time period, this is what happened. Guys, as you see here, my credit score went up 16 points, 16 points immediately because I opened the account. As you can see down here, all I did was open the account and my credit score went up 16 points just because I opened the credit card. Y'all, that's how crazy this whole credit score thing is. It's completely crazy. All I did was open it. I hadn't even used it yet. But then I did end up using it and I put a $30 purchase on it. That was it. All I did was $30. I'm not trying to go back into credit card debt, y'all. Been there, done that, got my t-shirt, never want to go back, okay? So I put a $30 purchase on it. Like I said, the purchase had been planned and budgeted. So I took the money from my checking account that I had budgeted for this planned purchase and like set it aside. So then that way when the statement came in, I could pay it. Because here's the key with when you're trying to repair your credit. You have to allow the statements to be issued. So even though every part of my body wanted to pay off that $30 immediately, I was like, I did not like having it looming over my head, which is actually why this card is completely canceled because I want nothing to do with it. It's too tempting. But the thing is, I didn't like that it was like looming over my head that I had this $30 just waiting out there for me. I didn't like it at all. But anyways, I had the $30 ready to go because the key is that I needed the statement to be issued first. So then that way I could pay the balance in full, not like the minimum payment, but pay the full $30 that it was in order to establish that payment history, because payment history is crucial with building your credit. You need to have a solid 3 months of good payment history in order to drastically improve your credit score. And so here's what happened after the payment, after the statement was issued and after I made the payment to the Amazon card. As you can see, within 1 month, my TransUnion credit score had gone up 79 points and my Equifax one had gone up 28 points. This also shows you how much discrepancy there is between the bureaus. Again, I don't have the Experian's numbers to put up on the screen because Credit Karma just does TransUnion and Equifax, but I'm sure that Experian's would also as well be a completely different number than these two. But that just shows you that within 1 month, my credit score had already gone back up into the quote unquote good range. And then obviously you got to let time go on. You got to pay the bills more. And then of course, again, because I was starting from zero and I had no open lines of credit, I had no aged credit, if you will. A part of improving your credit score is how long you have had the accounts open for. And so that Amazon account had only been opened at that point for a month. And I kept it open for 3 months. And so after 3 months, my credit score had not really changed that much. It stayed relatively the same. It went up a few points here or there, but it didn't really affect it too much at that point because I had already established that I had good payment history. The next thing that would need to happen in order for my credit score to go back up into that excellent range is I have to let the credit card line of credit age, meaning it doesn't mean that I have to use it. It just means that it has to stay open and be older than a year. And then of course, the more it goes on and the more responsible you are with it, then the better and better your credit score improves. Also too, with credit cards, this is another thing as well. If you are going to use credit cards, you definitely need to pay them off every single month in full. Do not carry a balance on your credit cards, guys. That means you've gone into debt and you don't want to go into credit card debt. One, it's just not good habits and it actually does negatively impact your credit score, as well as if you use too much of your credit limit on your credit card. So the rule of thumb, if you will, is to only use 10 to 30% of your credit limit. So whatever that credit limit is on the credit card, you only use 10 to 30%. But again, you have to pay it off every single month in order for any of this for it to really work. So just to recap, how you improve your credit score as quickly as possible. If you have collections or debts that are in collections or bad debts, those have to be taken care of first. You can't do anything else to try to repair your credit until those debts have been taken care of. You've paid them off. You've called them. You've reached a settlement that's in writing. You need that settlement in writing. Don't pay the money until you have it in writing. But you've gotten all those taken care of. Once those are taken care of, then you can work on trying to rebuild your credit from there. But don't even attempt to do any of this until you've made good with those collections. The other thing is that if you have a lot of open lines of credit, especially credit cards, and you're not using them all, you really need to consider closing the ones that you're just not using. Having a ton of unsecured lines of credit on your credit can negatively impact your overall credit score. The other thing is that if you do use credit cards, you need to be paying off those credit cards every single month. You should never, ever, 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 ever carry a balance on a credit card. And don't worry, the queen of being debt-free is not advocating for credit use. I do not have any intentions of ever going back into debt other than maybe taking out another mortgage sometime in the future. But other than that, I have zero desire to ever go back into debt and have zero desire to keep using credit cards because they just make me feel icky and I don't like it. But I do understand a needing and wanting to improve your credit score for things like trying to get rent and not have to pay out the wazoo in order to be able to qualify to take on rent from a landlord. I can totally understand that. And so from that perspective, I get it. But again, you need to pay off your credit cards every single month. You need to make sure that you're not maxing them out, that you're just going crazy with them. You need to rein it in. You need to set yourself a budget, a spending limit on that card. Like mine was literally $30 a month. I allowed myself $30 a month on Amazon just to buy random household things that we needed. Along with that, you want to make sure that you are making timely payments, paying them in full, and that you are allowing the statements to hit. It doesn't matter if you pay them online, you write a check, you do whatever, it doesn't matter. Just allow the statement to be issued. So then that way, because once that statement's been issued, it's actually been reported to the credit bureaus. Then that way you can show and establish the payment history with them. And you need to do this for at least 3 months. After that, even if you continue to use the credit cards, you can just turn around, use it, and then pay it right off if you want to. It doesn't matter. And I have plenty of friends that do that so they can earn like their credit card rewards points and stuff like that. That's totally fine. But if your intent and purpose is to rebuild your credit, you need to, for at least 3 months, allow the statement to be issued before making the payment on it. And here's another thing that you definitely need to do if you have never done it before. So not only do you need to be actively monitoring your credit score and everything, but you need to know what's on your actual credit report. This is actually how I discovered that my identity had been stolen. So there is a website called annualcreditreport.com. You can pull your credit report from all 3 bureaus for free, and you need to do that. And then I prefer to just print these big old monster reports off, depending on how old you are, how many lines of credit you've ever had in your life, whatever, like these reports might be really big. But print all of them off and then go through those reports with a fine-tooth comb and highlight, circle any errors that are on those reports, and anything that you need to report to those reporting bureaus. Again, this is how I discovered that my identity had been stolen, because I was actually in the 6th grade when my identity was stolen. And even though I could actually prove, because my driver's license, my birth certificate, all the things I had proved I was not old enough to have taken out a mortgage, a boat, or a car loan. I wasn't old enough to. I was 12. I was 12 years old. But yet, like, it was still an absolute pain in the rear end to be able to get those taken off of my credit, even though I could actually prove that I didn't do that. And just case in point, for anybody else that ever goes through this, my parents had to sign, I forget what the affidavit was called now, but they had to sign an affidavit swearing that they weren't the ones that stole my identity, and of course they weren't. But that's a very common thing, is that parents will actually use their children's social security numbers to apply for credit. Thankfully, I have really good parents and they didn't do that. But just be aware of that if you find something on your credit report from maybe back when you were a minor, that might be something that is required of your parents to do. So just FYI, just little information for you to know about. But regardless, you need to go through those reports and you need to make sure that everything that's on those reports is being reported accurately and correctly, because you don't want to have things that other people have done negatively impacting your credit. And so you want to make sure that all of those accounts that are on your credit report are in fact actually yours. Even if they're being paid for and they're current, you don't want to have other people's stuff on your stuff, do you? No. All right, so hopefully this will help you if you are in the position of trying to improve your credit. I feel really weird talking about credit cards and doing all of that just because we have gone so long without credit cards, and we were on the debt-free journey for so long. To sit here and talk about credit cards has made me feel really, really weird and awkward. But at the same time, I wanted to put myself through this experience just so I can make sure that when I report it back to everyone else, that I can give you honest feedback on, yeah, this works. No, this does not work. And if you have succeeded in the debt-free journey, like we have, and, you go and you get another credit card, I'm going to tell you that it's still very tempting. That if you were like me and kind of overspent a lot on a credit card once before in your life, like, it's still very tempting. That temptation is still there. So you will have to really practice a lot of self-discipline. But I hope that this helps you if you are in a position where you need to improve your credit score. And let me know in the comments of this video what else you would like for me to talk about when it comes to managing money.